On the left is a Dash application. It's a wonderful open source project for building interactive web apps. And some of these web apps may have lots and lots of data, and you might want to use something like Dask to help process this data. So what I'm going to show you here in this quick screencast is a wonderful web application. On the left, this was written by JP Huang, or adapted by him from an open Plotly example. And as I scroll around in this app, we're looking at some world cell tower data. We can dive in, we can dive out. And you may notice over here on the right that this Dask dashboard is updating, this task stream is updating. And that's because under the hood here, we're using a scalable Dask cluster that's running on Coiled. I've got my Coiled console over here on the right. This is a Coiled cluster with the dashboard embedded. And what this means is that when I write code here, I develop my code and I deploy my application, the processing, the Dask portion of the processing takes place on this cluster managed by Coiled. So I don't have to manage that infrastructure. There's no DevOps requirement for me. I just write some code. I then say I want to use Coiled to create this cluster. Very quick and easy to do. The rest of the code is just Dask. So I'm working with Dask data frames, doing things exactly the same as I would with Dask. There's no difference here with Coiled. Coiled just gives me the cluster on the right, and I can then deploy my application or test my application and allow Coiled to manage that processing. Now, one more key thing here, if you're working with large amounts of data, it's possible you may need lots of machines, but you only need them when users are showing up. And so in my case, for example, if I don't want to pay for compute that I'm not using, so I may arbitrarily choose to scale this cluster down. So right now I've got 10 workers. We can just go ahead and quickly scale this down to 4 workers. We can do this manually. And when I click on my workers tab, you'll see here in a second that these 10 workers are going to drop to 4. Now, within a web application, we're probably not going to do this manually. We'll want this to be based on the actual end user usage. And that's something we can very quickly and easily script and configure. But just to show this example manually to kind of ram the point home, what this enables is not just a Dask cluster, but one that scales up and down based on usage, so you don't foot the bill for unnecessary compute. So in the end, if you want to use something like Dash, Plotly Enterprise is a great tool. We can build these wonderful Dash apps. We can deploy them. If you'd like to have a Dask backend, Coiled is a really easy and cost-effective way of managing those scalable clusters. So you can just write Dask code and let Coiled handle the cluster.